Good evening. Oh, Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Brophy, and I'm the chair of the Planning Board Subcommittee on the Capital Improvement Budget and Program. I would like to acknowledge the committee members present with us this evening. When you hear your name, please say aye. Mr. Array,
Aye.
Mr. Brady, Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Ms. German,
Aye.
Mr. Halupka,
Aye.
Mr. Heinel,
Aye.
Mr. Hinton, Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Lilly,
Aye.
Ms. Muneses,
Aye.
Ms. Pinero, Mr. Schulman,
Aye.
Mr. Tennant.
Aye.
Thank you.
Emily, I think you missed me, but I'm here too.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Heckman. Thank you.
No problem.
Tonight we are meeting in a work session to hear from the Baltimore County Public Schools and Community College of Baltimore County. After each presentation, members of the committee will have the opportunity to ask questions of the presenter. Before we begin the presentations, I want to note that I know there are members of the community in attendance of tonight's meeting. This meeting has not been designed to accept comments from citizens. The Planning Board held a citizen input meeting on October 16th, 2025, which was the opportunity for the board to hear from citizens on their issues concerning the capital improvement program. Now I would like to invite Dr. Miriam Rogers from Baltimore County Public Schools to begin her presentation.
So thank you, Ms. Brophy. Dr. Rogers is present on the call, but I'll be starting off our presentation, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Absolutely.
Okay, Ms. Stifler, when you're ready to present the slides. So good afternoon. My name is Jess Grimm. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Baltimore County Public Schools. I'm here to present our capital improvement program for FY 2027. With me today, as I said, are Dr. Miriam Rogers, Superintendent, BCPS, Ms. Leslie Lazeri, Director, Office of Facilities, Construction and Improvement, and Mr. Paul Taylor, Director of the Office of Strategic Planning. I would like to thank the Planning Board for supporting our capital improvement programs in the past. Next slide. Our priorities within the capital improvement program continue to focus on recommendations from the multi-year improvement plan for all schools, or MyIPass, as well as infrastructure improvements. And this slide shows our core purpose is centered around increasing achievement for all students, and infrastructure is a key part of that. Next slide, please. This slide shows an inventory of all schools, centers, and programs in BCPS. The other category represents a school with a unique grade configuration. It includes grades 4 through 8. Next slide, please. The next two slides list specific projects included in the state and county capital budget request for FY27. And you'll see either an S or a C or an S and a C next to each of those requests. There are 4 items that are only being requested on the state funding request. That's Delaney High School, and it's for partial funding for construction. Scotts Branch Elementary, which is the remainder of funding for construction, and funding for additional planning and design services as requested for Patapsco High and the Northwest CTE Center. All other projects are on both the state and county requests, except for the repurposing of the Golden Ring site, which is only included on the county request. The projects not receiving state funding at the time of final budget approval will be delayed at least 1 year. Next slide, please. And as I said, this is just a continuation. Next slide, please. Based on the latest data for 2025, this slide represents capacity utilization by categories of elementary, middle, and high schools. Please note these maps do show the revised utilization thresholds as adopted as part of the revised Baltimore County Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, or APFO. Next slide, please. This chart shows the official September 30th system enrollment since FY19 and the projected enrollment up through FY27. Baltimore County and LEAs across Maryland have been experiencing a downward trend in enrollment, primarily driven by long-term demographic shifts and changes in family educational choices. These include declining birth rates, alternative education choices such as homeschooling, shifts in migration from the state and the county, and changes in immigration policies. Next slide, please. Our FY 2027 CIP requests for the Southwest area include an intercom replacement for Western School of Technology and a roof replacement at Halethorpe Elementary School. Next slide. Our 2027 CIP requests for the Northwest area include a new Northwest area career and technology education school, and that's for planning purposes only. Boiler replacements at Franklin and Sudbrook Middle Schools, chiller replacement for Owings Mills High School, and the reallocation of funding to utilize the maximum state funding amount in lieu of existing county funds for Scotch Branch Elementary School. Next slide, please. Our FY 2027 CIP requests for the central area include a boiler replacement for Sparks Elementary School and the replacement of Delaney High School. The state funding request for construction is awarded over multiple years. Next slide, please. Our FY 2027 CIP requests for the Northeast area include repurposing of the former Golden Ring Middle School site as the new site for Crossroads Center, as well as roof replacements for McCormick and Martin Boulevard Elementary Schools, and chiller replacements for Perry Hall Middle and Perry Hall. Next slide, please. Our FY 2027 CIP request for the Southeast area include an addition at Patapsco High School, and this is for design. Further, per the MyPass recommendations, a study was conducted to evaluate options to provide capacity relief in the Sparrows Point area. As a result of this study, a replacement school is proposed for both Sparrows Point middle and high schools, but we do not have any funding and are not requesting any funding for those. Next slide, please. Some ongoing challenges we face include having the third oldest infrastructure in the state and having to balance the needs of our system versus available funding. Available funding increases have not kept pace with the increased planning, design, and construction costs, labor, and materials. Without additional funding, such as the Built to Learn Act or pass-through grants, and with the current priority of high school replacement renovation projects, critical systemic projects will not be funded or will need to be deferred. The reality is that there are fewer projects, but those projects have higher costs. These challenges of long delivery times, designing, permitting timelines, labor shortages, construction, professional fields continue with new uncertainties and increasing regulations. We are greatly appreciative of the partnership with the County Office of Budget and Finance to overcome many of these challenges. Next slide, please. In terms of environmental and sustainability efforts, this slide shows that we are very proud of our record with both. Deer Park Elementary School, which will be coming online this next fall, is being constructed as the first net zero school, in Baltimore County. Delaney High School and Towson High School are being constructed to Green Globe 2 requirements. Delaney will have solar panels on approximately 40% of the roof. All of our schools constructed since 2010 have received LEED Silver certification or better. Next slide, please. We are proud of our accomplishments in school construction and improvement, and this slide lists the current projects in design, current projects in construction, and recently opened new and replacement schools. Next slide, please. And this last slide shows some of those projects that are in design and that have been completed. And at this time, our team is open to questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grimm. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Grimm, Dr. Rogers, or anyone on their team? I'm going to look for the hands up. Bev?
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Two questions. One, can you talk a little bit more about the Golden Ring site, So is the plan to move Crossroads to Golden Ring?
Yes, ma'am. So we're very excited about that project. It gives us the opportunity to repurpose the current middle school at a smaller scale, and to save money in the long run because we presently lease a building for the Crossroads Center. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then can you give a little bit more detail about the Sparrows Point Middle High um, site? And just to be transparent, my daughter's the school nurse at Sparrows Point Middle High. It's she works really hard. There's a lot of kids in a very old building.
Yes, ma'am. I'm happy to. And I think last year we shared we were in the stages of planning for that particular improvement. We had done a study. We had conducted a study of what the best options were to move forward at that site. That study concluded that the costs to do any type of renovation and either keep the existing structure as the middle school or the high school and to create a new school would be more costly than to construct two new buildings. That's what our study last year had shown. Unfortunately, with funding levels where they are presently, that project has been put on hold. We can't continue any more design for that project, planning or design for that project because there are a few others that are actually in front of it. So we are eager to get back to that as more funding becomes available.
Do you have a timeline on that?
No, ma'am. Unfortunately, we don't because, as I said, there are a couple of other projects that are in the queue ahead of it that also do not have funding yet secured. Patapsco and the Northwest CTE Center, for example, were projects that were approved by the board ahead of the Sparrows Point projects, and so those have yet to be funded.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Halupka?
Thanks. I guess one point of clarification, since I don't know, what is Crossroads?
Crossroads is it's our middle school alternative education center. It's presently within a business park up off of 43. BCPS has been in that facility since 2004 or 2005, and it services students from the central, northeast, and southeast regions.
Okay. Couple of other questions. I should know this, but have we finished? Are all of our schools now air conditioned? I mean, I know that was an issue several years ago. Have we resolved that?
So all of our schools are air conditioned. However, we do have spaces within some of our schools that are not air conditioned. For example, we have some gymnasiums, some kitchens. I think we have a handful of cafeterias. Those individual or specific spaces within the facility are not air conditioned. But the schools, the classrooms, most of the learning spaces, the classrooms are air conditioned. That is correct.
And it was my understanding that the goal of the MPAS, MyPass system was to sort of, at the end of it all, we would have all of our schools up to whatever the standards are that we currently, that we want them to be. Is that a correct understanding? And two, how far are we in that process?
So thank you for that question. The goal of my iPass was to create a priority order in which the county could work together, county government, county schools, to prioritize those needs for the school system. It was to give, again, recommendations around an approach to capital improvement programs. We have made some significant strides. There are a number of schools that we've built in the past 4 years, 5 years since my iPass has been executed that address the most critical needs outlined in that document. However, at the time that the document was published, I believe the figure was $4 billion in capital money was needed just to get us to a standard at that point in time. Construction costs have soared since MyPass was published. We have conservatively estimated it would cost almost double that at this point. And given the age of our infrastructure, many of the systemics that we need to address, our boilers, our chillers, our electrical systems, our plumbing systems, those have taken an awful lot of precedence. And sometimes the failure of those systems or the emergent needs of those systems has changed the priority as it was identified in my iPass several years ago. So I'd be happy to offline take a look at my iPass with anyone or have staff do that to show you where we've made those strides. But again, bringing schools like the replacement school at Bedford, when we look at Summit Park, when we look at the Deer Park that's being constructed, Deer Park L that's being constructed, the addition at Dundalk High School, for example, the new Northeast Middle School, Rossville Elementary, all of those capital projects, Pine Grove Middle School, all of the renovation addition there have fit in with my iPass.
So just so I'm understanding it correctly, when MyPass started, it was estimated we need $4 billion to sort of meet that list. We've been able to tackle some projects on that list, but given the projects that remain and new projects, you're estimating at least $8 billion now to get through the current list. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yes, sir. Due to the aging, due to the 5 years that has elapsed since my iPass, plus the additional costs in construction, we have those estimates. I don't have the figures in front of me, but the interagency on school construction has published a lot of data around the cost of school construction over the last 10 years, and it is more than double.
And so how much are you requesting this year in capital money from the county?
So we don't get any additional. This is a non-funding year. We actually have to use all of the money that's existing from last year's referendum from the county to complete the projects that we've listed out. So it's really just the reprioritization of certain emerging projects. That's why you can see we don't have any new projects that are on there for the county, except for the repurposing of Golden Ring. And as I said, that project is expected to save the county and the school system money over time.
So how much was allocated in last year's 2-year cycle?
Ms. Lazzari, do you recall that exact figure? I don't want to misquote.
I do not have the exact figure. It was a referendum year that was very generous. It was over $300 million, I believe.
But that's a small fraction of $8 billion. I'm just trying. One of the things we've heard from other agencies is, just these long backlogs in improving various county-owned buildings, and so it sounds like the school system is in a very similar situation.
Yes, sir. I would say we're in that situation. I would also say the county through Built to Learn, through those referendums, has been very generous and supportive of us. We do have the third oldest infrastructure in the state, but we're also very proud. Right now, we have 3 high schools that are under construction. I don't believe we've had 3 high schools under construction since the 1960s or early 1970s at one time. So we have 3 long-awaited high school projects, and frankly, the cost of those projects is significant compared to even projects we did 10 to 15 years ago at that same level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brady, your hand was up before. Do you still have a question or no?
Mr. Haruka asked my question in regards to air conditioning schools, but I do have another question. Do you have buildings now that in the school system that aren't being used, and what is the plan for those, if you have any?
So the only site now that we are not utilizing in some fashion is the Golden Ring site. It is actually used, and I shouldn't say it isn't used. Recreation and Parks uses it quite extensively. Actually, the gym and the activity room. We have a plan for occupancy of that building by students through this capital request. Again, that would shift one of the centers that we have in a leased location to this facility. We do not have any other facilities that we aren't using for some other purpose. We did close the Campfield site, for example, this past year. Presently, Campfield is being used for offices, and we're starting to clear out part of that building because that has been approved as the site for the new Northwest CTE Center.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And if I may piggyback off that question, Mr. Grimm. So we see every year, obviously enrollment is decreasing due to different trends. And on your map, there's quite a few schools that are underutilized, and then some that are at, 130% capacity, et cetera. As you're building these new schools, is there any plan to kind of shift some of that around so that you don't have, some schools at 70% capacity and then some at 130%?
Yes, thank you for that question, Ms. Brophy. So a great example of that exact kind of work has happened in the Northwest. So Deer Park will be the 4th elementary school in that area that we've opened over the past I'd have to go back 3 or 4 years. And what happened as we were planning and designing those facilities was we took a look at the enrollment patterns there. We did exactly what you said. We looked at how we could balance the enrollment of nearby schools and the utilization in nearby schools, and they were part of the plan from the beginning. And so that has been a very successful model. We have also been looking. One of the other areas at the elementary level that we've looked at is in the Southeast. We know that there's a need there. We've looked at how we can again shift some of the enrollment and what capital projects we may be able to take on to alleviate some of the school needs that we do have. So yes, ma'am, we are constantly looking for opportunities to balance to reach the best utilization that's possible.
Thank you for that. Mr. Array, you had a question? Peter, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Peter.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm, thank you for the presentation. I'm going back to Golden Ring, Middle, and Crossroad. So the reason why you moved, part of the reason why Golden Ring was closed, was it because of safety issues? If yes, are you doing improvement before you transfer students from Crossroad to Golden Ring?
So thank you very much for your question. We at the time we looked at Golden Ring. At the time the decision was made with the county to construct the new Nottingham Middle School. We took a look at Golden Ring and we're trying to determine whether it would be a cost-effective option to do any type of a renovation or addition to the building in its totality. At the time, there were between 800 and 1,000 students that attended Golden Ring. The determination was made that due to the age and the condition of the full facility, that a renovation addition on that property would not make the most fiscal sense. So that's why the new Nottingham was constructed. I share that because the plan for the plan for the capital project as it relates to Golden Ring and the renovation there is targeted at a much smaller student population. The enrollment of the Crossroads Center is at this time is about a quarter of what the enrollment would have been at the Golden Ring facility. That allows us to target any type of improvements or renovations that we would make. I will tell you that when we closed the facility, it was absolutely safe for students and staff. That was not an issue. It was really about the aging condition of some of the building and some of its infrastructure. With this plan, we'll be able to address some of that. Again, focused on serving a smaller enrollment, a smaller population at the school.
So how many students will be transferred to this location?
We are looking at a capacity of somewhere around 250 students.
And what time frame do you have in mind? When would that happen?
We would be opening the facility in the fall of 2027. So
Thank you.
not this coming school year, the following school year.
Thank you. And then I have my last question is about class enrollment increase because of the budget issues. So is it true that the class size is going to increase for the school system? And if that is the case, does that involve any layoffs for teachers?
So, Mr. Array, I'm sorry, I'm not the best person to be able to answer those questions for you. I apologize.
Okay, so you don't know whether there'll be layoffs, or you don't know whether there'll be class size increase, right?
So, Mr. Array, I know that in the proposed budget that's before the board, there's a proposal to modify the ratio of students in the classroom. I can't speak to anything additional about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hinton?
Hey, Mr. Grimm, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
And I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. We understand that money isn't unlimited, so we appreciate what you're trying to do. My question is primarily a little bit more around the process that I guess we've been kind of talking about. I'm trying to understand from your perspective how you guys are balancing, systemic needs as you talked about, like with the boiler and chiller replacements versus capacity needs, right? Like, from between how are you going to decide, are you going to replace a school or build a school? And, it sounds like you do have a living document, right? Like you're adjusting as things change. How does that process work so that you're making these decisions?
So thank you, Mr. Hinton, for that question. So they both really work in tandem and together. Sometimes when there's a systemic issue, it's an issue that I'm going to call it very acute. We know that there was a boiler failure. There was some other issue that induces a need for a capital project, and it can be rather immediate. Whether we have, I'm going to call it a catastrophic boiler failure, and we know that we have to replace that boiler in the cycle. That's very different than sometimes we have a situation where we know a roof by its age and by other, by maybe leaks or other things that we're dealing with will need to be replaced within the next 3 to 4 years. We do know the life cycle of the major systemics that we have, and when we believe that they will need to be replaced based on those life cycles, and we try to attend to that as best as possible. As you know, in dealing with facilities like this, the best laid plans sometimes don't always work out, and we have to pivot and do a systemic. Sometimes we also plan to do a systemic, and when we begin to investigate at the school, we determine that another system within the school also needs to be replaced at the same time. And that does sometimes happen. So for example, we may go in and say, we really need to replace the fire alarm at X school. And when we go in there and we begin to look at the fire alarm, we determine that the whole electrical system may have other, maybe insufficient in other ways. And we need to do both at the same time. It would be more cost effective. It would be safer to do both at the same time. So that does happen. In terms of your question about how we make a determination whether a facility should be renovated or whether it should be replaced. There is a process that we go through. Much of it is driven by the condition of the facility as determined through my IPASS and other facilities inspections that we're involved in. We participate every year in facilities inspections through the state, and they advise us and give us feedback on the conditions of our facilities. And so sometimes it's taking a look at that feedback that they've provided us, what the community needs are, and making a determination based on trends and what the forecast is in the cost of construction, to determine whether or not a renovation or replacement or addition is most appropriate. And so it's really a combination of those factors, based on when they're listed in the priority order, and if something happens where we need to change the priority order. Systemic priority orders do change. Usually our large capital projects do not change because of the board. I think it's also important to note we have other funding sources and grants sometimes that help us through some of these projects. So for example, we've been able to replace a number of roofs through a specific grant that is part of a Healthy Schools initiative. And so we carefully look at what those funding sources are and what they allow us to do in terms of those capital improvements. So I hope that answers your question.
That does. And then my last question, if I may ask, would be more specifically around the capacity issue, right? Again, like I said, I know funds aren't unlimited, and the public only sees what the public sees. So I think when you presented last year, it showed that the majority of the schools that are overcrowded are on the eastern side of the county, and that might be because you're doing so much work on the west side, right? It could be just a result of the good work that you're doing. Is there a plan for the east side, specifically like the northeast, where we're doing so much new home building to alleviate a lot of the overcrowding? Like I know Overly High School is like at pretty high up there, over 120% something capacity. It is my belief that one high school could fix the whole high school, but saying we need land for that as well. But is there a plan for the Northeast, and how are you balancing where we're building? Are we building on the east side, the west side, central Baltimore County? How do you go through that process?
So I heard a few different questions there. So let me address your question about the Northeast first. Our board in looking at the high schools in the area and looking at the capacity issues have identified Overly as a replacement school project. Again, that is, I couldn't tell, I'm sorry, I can't tell you sitting here right now where it is without consulting our notes on where it is in the priority. I do know it's after Patapsco and the Northwest CTE Center. But we did a lot of site studies in the area and looked at the land that we do have, the sites that we do have, and Overly was identified as the best option for a replacement school in the Northeast area. Again, we don't have any funding at this time for planning, let alone design, but that would be what has been identified as the system to address that. So at present, we have more temporary, I'll call them more temporary things in place to address some of those issues. And in fact, we constantly look at the enrollment trends and the adjacencies of the other high schools. And so part of our decisions are driven by the funding that the state will provide to us for some of these projects. So, for example, we have to look at the sites, the schools that are adjacent to where we want to do any of these projects. So, in the case of Overly, for example, they're going to look at the capacities and the utilization at Loch Raven. They're going to look at Parkville. They're going to look at Perry Hall. They may even extend into Towson, possibly, or even Delaney, depending on how they're looking at clustering schools at that time. So that's the one answer in terms of how we look at that. And Overly has been approved by the board as that replacement school site. It's just that funding isn't there. What I also heard in your question was, how do we prioritize around the county? Again, a lot of that has been driven by my iPass and the evaluation or condition of our facilities and what the growing needs are. You had said something else that's very critical. You talked about homes and home building and residential. There are oftentimes that school construction and any LEA in Maryland cannot keep pace with home construction because because our capital process is so lengthy. It takes us several years to physically build a school, a high school, and that's irregardless of the planning and design time. So you're looking at a minimum of a 5 to 6 year cycle for a high school, from planning through design through construction, and that's if you're able to build a new school on the same site or on a fresh site. That's different than other schools where you're doing like a like new renovation addition. So I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was excellent insight. And yeah, I think that's one of the things that you see at a lot of these meetings. The community complains and say, well, when you're building a high school or middle school, the data is 6 years old. So like with Northeast Middle School, you built it in the first year, it's over capacity. But I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I really appreciate the extra insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Muniz, you had your hand up earlier. Do you still have a question, or has it been answered?
Sorry.
You're good?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. I see a couple hands up, but they've already asked questions. Does anybody else have any questions before I go to round 2 for Mr. Grimm here? Okay, Mr. Array.
Mr. Grimm, don't blame me, blame yourself. When you are so good, you create more questions. So we thank you for your patience. Going back to Golden Ring, I don't mean to belabor the point. That's because I live here. And when I go to meetings, I want to be able to give good information to the neighbors. Golden Ring, the move from Crossroad to Golden Ring, is it going to be a permanent move or just temporary?
So at this time, we would think it's a long-term move. There's we're requesting a considerable investment from the county to make that move. Obviously, to use the funds to make that move. It also gives us the opportunity to repurpose that building in the school system for educational purposes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holupka?
You mentioned before the My iPass is that a living document? Like, I was trying to go online. Is there a 2025, 2026 version of My iPass, or 2026, 27, or is it just the original list from?
So it is a the My iPass report itself is not a living document. However, it's a living document for us, along with what we do on a yearly basis. Again, between the IAC inspections and the other facilities evaluations. We take those into consideration with the projects and the timing and the order as well. My iPass was really meant to be a snapshot of again where we were and what a plan could be to move forward. And as I said, if you really look at that document, whether it's the full document or the summary, we could go through that and say, oh, these are the projects that we've completed. These are the projects we've addressed in some other way. These projects have become more emergent because of a failure or condition at the sites that's required that.
But there's nothing sort of currently like that I could go online and see, here's the current list and compare that to the original list. Sounds like it's all more.
No, because the only list per se are what we request in the capital process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Mr. Hinton, it looks like you have another question.
Yes, sir. I have one quick question. We have been hearing that there was supposed to be a new auditorium project for Overley High School. Is that factual, or do you know anything about that?
I do, but she's very proud of it, so I'm going to ask Miss Lazari to chime in on that project.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, we have, it's an upgrade of the sound system, the lighting system it's been needed for a while. We're very happy we finally got the funding and we're able to proceed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Do you know the timeline on that, or is that still working out?
I think they're working on it now. It should be like by the end of the summer. The work itself takes longer than a summer. So I think we're taking a little bit of the time like before the summer and then through. But we've been working closely with the school.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any more questions for Mr. Grimm? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Mr. Grimm. Obviously, our board is very passionate about the school system, so I appreciate you answering all of our questions.
Thank you for the opportunity, and we truly appreciate your continued support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I would like to invite Dr. Sandra Kurtinitis and Miss Melissa Hopp from the Community College of Baltimore County to begin their presentation. Board members, please remember to mute your microphones if you're not speaking. Thank you.
Well, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well, we watched with sympathy while you grilled our colleague from the public schools. So we're happy to be here and we'll behave very well and we will go right through our program. So I always like to, here we go. I always like to do a little, hold on just 1 minute. This isn't moving.
Yep, it is.
There it goes. Okay. And I always like to do a little introduction to the college. There's so many great things that happen here every single day. And as we come humbly asking for support for our capital budget, we like to feel that you feel you're getting a good investment. So let me just start then. This is our crew. The vice president and I are here, and the other gang is down on the other end, ready to answer any questions that we don't know the answers to. So let me start by just kind of giving you a really positive sense of where the Community College of Baltimore County is going these days. You know, when we were coming out of the pandemic, I made a promise to our folks, our board, our faculty and staff, that we would come out of this pandemic with vision and strength. And I'm really proud to say that we'll show you a little bit today of where we are now, which is in a really good place. But first, to brag a little bit, every year for the past 4 years, the best community college winner of the Daily Record Readers rankings is the Community College of Baltimore County. And of course, that may have something to do with how large we are and how many votes we can probably submit, but we're always really proud to brag about that a little bit. But here's where I think the bragging really gets good, because we're going to wow you a little in the way that we're wowed over the past 2 to 3 years, we've been working on something we've been calling the New Journey for Students. And this was looking at every level of how we bring students in, how we keep them here, and how we help them to complete. And our folks have just about finished this New Journey for Students. And I share this with you because over the past 3 years, we've seen our enrollment just going up and up and up. And we're really proud of this because across the nation, the enrollment uptick for community colleges has been 1.4%. And here's CCBC actually exceeding, this is for the spring, but for every successive fall, summer, fall, winter, and spring, all of this good work that our people have done is now beginning to show itself. And that really is in some major revisioning of enrollment pathways, of retention pathways. And the third piece that I always like to bring to your attention, and now, Alex,
There
okay,
it is.
thank you very much. This is an initiative that we started about 2 years ago, and now we are able, like last year's population of students of about 55,000 students, about 93% of our students in full or in part are now attending CCBC tuition free. And this just gives you a list of our major sources of funding. A new source of funding that comes online on July 1 that we will be ready to implement is the new workforce Pell. But what we really think is important here, given the students we serve, we know that we are a highly competitive institution when it comes just with regular tuition. But when you add free tuition to this, it goes down to this: 2 years virtually at no cost to most of the students. And then 2 years, transfer and go wherever you like, 28,000 to Towson, 84,000 to Micah. So we're really proud of being partners with these colleges because we can, in fact, do such a large amount of helping students who are students, who they are and how they make their way up to an advanced degree. We also, I want to brag a little bit about the work that we've been able to do this year to support students. We have pantries and lockers on all 3 of our campuses. And the shop, as we call it, where students can get for free, not buy, clothes and food and other household items. But the one at the top is the one I'd like to really acknowledge, because I think this really shows what a community college can do for its students. So when the government shutdown occurred and the SNAP benefits were frozen, we knew we had about 6,700 SNAP students. And the governor stepped forward and he put 50% he replaced 50% of the SNAP benefits. That was $100 per SNAP family. And we then just went to our 6,700 students and we added another 25%, which meant we put $50 on each of their one cards, each of those 6,700, or gave them the opportunity to get a $50 gift card to Giant or Aldi. I'm proud to share that with you because that's who we are, that's what we do. And at the same time that we're, paying a lot of attention to students' needs, we are also paying a lot of attention to upgrading the facilities that these students use. And I have to also thank all of you. You've been so supportive of our capital requests. But every year we have about 6 ribbon cuttings. Here are 3 of the ones we had this fall. There'll be at least 2 more before we get too far into the spring semester, but this is all part of our commitment to make sure that students who come to CCBC have the best possible, most up-to-date facilities and equipment in which to work and to learn. And so that brings me to brag about one more thing. We've been in a major fundraising campaign called Bridge to Success. We just finished it this year. We had set our sights on raising 50, oops, having a little trouble clicking here. There we go. We set our sights to raise 51 million and we topped out on 70 million. And so we got to celebrate this in October over on the Essex campus. And when you walk into the Essex administration building now, that these are these big signs that you get to see. Very special to have so many funds come from friends of the college. $70 million to invest in a lot of important ways, whether equipment, facilities, or special perks for students. And speaking of students, and this is, I always like to show you this as we have increased over the past year or 2 or 3 in our enrollment, but I always like to remind everyone that our student body is very different from our 4-year colleges. And while we make many pathways for these students to transfer eventually to the 4-year colleges, it's really important to notice that about 30,000 of these students last year were in our continuing ed programs, many of them getting certifications in various trades, about 25,000 roughly working on degrees to transfer to largely to our 4-year partners. But you notice average age 36, growing number of minority students, always predominance of women over men students by roughly 10%. But that leads to the 90% figure. Most of our students, because of their age, because of full-time jobs, because of families to raise, most of our students attend part-time. And so we're really proud of what our folks are able to do through helping these students get college level ready. And while we have roughly 12% of our students coming, maybe even a little more than that now, coming through the early college access programs from our high schools, we know that the bulk of our student population will be as I just described them. Always, wonderful students, and we bring them here and help them get to the next level. So for us, that means, we don't bother worrying about how we support this student or that student. To us, every one of us counts, everyone here, faculty, staff, students. And because words are quick to fade, we put our effort into taking actions that matter. And so I will just sort of wind up my part by reminding you that as we move forward with our presentation today, you will soon hear Vice President Hopp begin to talk about some of our current capital needs and how we are working to both support our regular liberal arts, history, art, et cetera, along with expanding an already very broad reach in training for the trades. For us, we just consider that everything we do is workforce development, whether we are educating nurses or accountants or plumbers or electricians or poets and dancers. So this slide is actually my last one, and it pretty much says to you, we are doing a very responsible thing. We are now, over the past 2 years, we are looking at our capital needs squarely from the lens of what our academic needs dictate that they should be. We're in the process of wrapping up by April our 10-year master plan. So you're going to hear a lot more from us as we go forward year after year with some new types of capital requests. So with that, I will just close my portion by saying we are happy to be what we believe we have become for Baltimore County, an indispensable institution. And with that, I will pass the clicker over to Vice President Hopp, who will really dig into the specifics of what we're here to request today. Melissa.
But thank you, President Kurtinitis. And Board members, I just want to, the president has given you context about the students we serve. I want to give you the context about the buildings and facilities that we have. And we have about 1.8 million gross square feet across our 3 main campuses and 4 extension centers. We are very grateful for the funding we've received in the past, and we do everything that we can to leverage that investment by securing state, federal, or philanthropic funds, by paying debt service, having students pay a capital revenue fee, and building buildings that are energy efficient and sustainable. So speaking of sustainability, any of you that have been on our campuses see our commitment to sustainability with our solar canopy carports across the 3 main campuses. I want to point out that this year, as part of our facilities master plan, we are also doing a clean energy plan aimed at sustainability and carbon neutrality. And we hope to have that completed over the summer. We're thankful for some state funding to help us move forward with that look at our campuses. Moving to the question that you often ask, which is, what have you done and what's in progress? So let me start with what have we done. Since we talked to you last, we completed 2 roof replacements at CCBC Essex on the Student Services Center and the Technology Services Center for $1.1 million. That was funded half by the county, half by the state. Another project that we completed was the Student Services Center 2nd floor renovation at CCBC Dundalk, just under $7 million. And that was a systemic renovation for roof, windows, HVAC, electric, fire alarms. But we also took the opportunity to reconfigure office spaces and make that a more efficient facility. Also completed and just completed in December was phase 1 of our automotive technology building renovation. And that was renovation of the existing building aimed towards improving the areas for instruction for auto mechanics. Other projects that are in progress but not yet done. Actually, we just finished the full design for phase 2 of the automotive technology building that just last month, and you'll see that we hope to be in construction this summer. We are still designing the student services renovation at CCBC Catonsville. Very exciting stormwater, storm drain outfall restoration also at Catonsville, and a roof replacement. At CCBC Essex, we need to replace all of the underground electrical distribution system, as well as our switchgear, and a couple of roofs coming up. And then CCBC Dundalk is home to our new welding and trade center. And that building, we hope to have groundbreaking this coming April. Let me talk about our FY27 capital budget. And of course, you know that this is the 2nd year of the biennium. So in terms of county funding, we're just looking for a little reallocation and the appropriation of $750,000 in student fees that we collected last year. I'm happy to say that Governor Moore has included $9.5 million in the state capital budget to fund the phase 2 of the automotive technology renovation, the roof replacements, and some more money towards the switchgear replacement and distribution. So that's FY27. Going forward into FY28 and 9, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, we're very happy for the $18.6 million that we're looking at for FY28-29, but we'd like to see eventually that biennial funding go up to 21 million, where we can begin to have more funds to address these large campuses in each biennium. This is the 28-29 biennium. It is from the county, $18.6 million. The majority of funds is in Project 100. That's the deferred maintenance and space renovations. We have over 42 million of deferred maintenance, so there's certainly plenty of work to be done. Roof replacements, we have 3 more roofs that we want to put in this year's cycle. And then we need to begin, one of the things we learned in our master plan preparation is that our HVAC systems are in many cases, well, in almost all of our buildings, woefully out of date and undersized and need to be replaced so that we really have environments that are much more comfortable for students as they learn. We do have continued funding for the Student Services Center at Catonsville and the primary switchgear at Essex. Those dollars get matched by almost 33 million of state funding in FY28 and 29. This is the rendering of phase 2 of our automotive technology renovation. This is the one that we hope to break ground for this summer. It's an addition to the existing building, but quite large, 20,000 square feet. And that's because it's what is necessary for CCBC to be able to train auto mechanics who can work on electric vehicles. We know that the United States will face a shortage of electric vehicle technicians by 2028, and only 1.4% of auto mechanics are certified for that work. On the good news from the student's perspective, they normally earn 10 to 20% more than a fossil fuel gas-powered engineer mechanic. So this is a place where we worked really hard to leverage additional dollars. We've leveraged some CCBC funds. We've leveraged about 5 million of Baltimore County funds, some bonds, some PAYGO, and about 12, almost 13 million of state funds, all weaving together for a $25 million project. The Essex switchgear is also, I've mentioned that a couple of times, but this modernizes our 13,000 volt switchgear lineup. Just to show you, this is, a rough drawing, and all those lines are actually the underground feeders that get replaced. We're going to be, just to give you a hint, there's about 9,300 feet of underground electrical cable that gets replaced, about 22,000 feet of trenches, all kinds of things. And the new switchgear that gets put in place will actually be huge and located in an enclosure that will look like a building, but really won't be. It'll just be an enclosure. But those switchgear lineups are 35 feet long, 4 feet deep, and 9 feet tall. And just to give you a sense of it, that switchgear has the capacity that's 562 times the size of the electrical service each of us have in our homes. This summer, we'll do 3 more roofs, $5.3 million. This is also a county state project. The facilities roof at CCBC Catonsville, Arts and Humanities Hall at CCBC Essex, and also the library at CCBC Essex. In the next biennium, 3 more roofs, Business Education and Social Sciences Hall at CCBC Essex, the Public Safety Building at Essex, and the Alvin and Mary Lloyd College Center at CCBC Dundalk. We've talked a lot about the Catonsville Student Services Project, still $39 million, and important for us to reconfigure that to match so that the facilities match the flow for the new journey for students. And that, of course, is at our the Catonsville campus, where we have the opportunity to blend new facilities with historic buildings and ruins. Here's some pictures of some of the outfalls that are being replaced at CCBC Catonsville, and this is funded half by the county and half by the state. And then the HVAC system, right now we're identifying a $7.3 million project funded by the county and the state. As we go forward and identify the specific building systems, you'll see that. But we know that, for example, on the Essex campus, of our 16 buildings, 15 of them need new HVAC systems. Then $8 million for capital maintenance and renovations to address some of that $48 million in deferred maintenance, and also to address the needs of upgrading of systems and buildings for new academic programs. Lastly, we always put a little bit of money into these bulk categories for programmatic renovations, ADA alterations, and asbestos abatement. And of course, you all know that allows us to dip into those accounts as a particular project requires asbestos abatement or ADA. We've forecast as well 2030 to 2032 of $39 million for the county. As we go forward, we will be talking about which projects come from the master plan. Now, Dr. Kurtenitis shared that master plan, and I can tell you that that master plan is not aimed at new buildings so much as right-sizing and modernizing our facilities. So we appreciate all of the investment that the county has made in our capital projects, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do any members of the board have questions? Ms. Munezes.
Oh, yes, my question, I don't know if it was a rumor but it sounded exciting. Were there any plans to partner up with the Glen L. Martin Aviation Museum and lease some property or lease some space in their museum to start a avionics program?
Well, it's more than a rumor. We are
Oh, okay.
actually beginning to have meaningful conversations. We have prepared two proposals. One for the aviation mechanics program, the other, and this one is a little bit behind in terms of the discussions, but the other is to consider relocating our entire aviation program over in the museum building. I think Gus has maybe the third floor or the second floor or the fourth floor set aside for us while we consider this. We know that both aviation mechanics and actually FAA controllers are in great demand, growing demand. And we actually already have the programming for, pilots and so forth, but we also have and have just secured a modified version for FAA controllers. Everybody needs controllers, just like everybody needs truckers, and CCBC is moving in that business. We're already in it. We like to expand. But the aviation mechanics program will be a new one for us. We do need a hangar, and we're about to have a conversation with Gus and maybe with the aviation management on whether there is a hangar already available that we might access, or if we can renovate one. That's the sort of the last piece of the discussion because we haven't sorted that out yet. But we're very excited about this as a real possibility. Our aviation programs in their current space are very limited in terms of the enrollment that they can acquire. And we know if we can spread out and expand, and just having the aviation programs at an airport in itself, we think will be a plus for students who are interested in any kind of avionics.
Well, yes, I'm also I was very excited to hear about it and excited that it's more than a rumor.
It is more than a rumor. Now, that doesn't mean by next week we'll have everything sorted out. It does mean that with a lot of careful consideration and a really fine proposal that's been prepared by our folks to move us forward on an aviation mechanics program. The other we got it, we just don't have enough space. But the mechanics program will be new for us. And really, we think it's both a needed program and one that will be very popular.
Thank you.
Mr. Halupka?
Thanks. A question that I've been asking almost all the different agencies. So the 48 million in deferred maintenance, my recollection is those aren't the big ticket items that you've been discussing. That's just sort of the ongoing maintenance of a lot of buildings and et cetera, correct?
Correct.
And are we catching up or falling behind? Was it 48 million last year, or was it higher or lower?
Well, I think it was probably a little bit lower last year.
Okay.
Yes.
And did that include that you were saying like the HVAC systems that need to be renovated just about everywhere? Is that considered part of that, or is that even a whole separate category?
That's a whole separate
No way.
It's not snow, it's ice, and the trucks can't go through it. That's the issue.
I'm sorry, you broke up on me there.
Can all board members please mute your microphones, please? Thank you.
So yeah, that is a separate category because as we've been going through our master planning process, we've been doing another facilities assessment. So there are new items that were not on the prior list.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, scrolling through, Mr. Array. Peter, you're still on mute.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Madam President, you and your team, you guys are very creative. You do go about looking for funding. You don't sit still. And we appreciate your commitment to always making a difference. And I just want to thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. That's a very nice compliment. And you're right, we look for funding everywhere. And so when I said before, we raised $70 million in our our Bridge to Success campaign, that's not chump change, but wow, that opens a lot of doors for us. So thank you. That's nice of you to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, not seeing any. Look, we softballed you too.
Thank you. We're happy. We can go home and have supper. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Curtinitis and Ms. Hopp. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
very much appreciate all of you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
If there are no further comments or questions, we will adjourn. I would like to thank all of the presenters and their presentations this evening. The next meeting of the Planning Board Subcommittee on the Capital Improvement Budget and Program will be Thursday, February 15th, following our normally scheduled board meeting to hear staff recommendations. Information for that meeting can be found on the Planning Board's webpage. Thank you for attending tonight, and this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good night.